Alright, hi guys, welcome to 6.6, which is half angle formulas. So this is, for example, if I wanted to find the value of like cosine of 15 degrees. So you know the cosine of 30 degrees, so you could find that by dividing 30 by 2 and using these formulas. So these are the formulas. Again, you don't have to memorize them, but you should be able to use them to find the half angles, okay? So again, if you have an angle that you know, so for example, like I said, 30 degrees, and we'll actually do that example in a second, you can find the half of that angle. So example, 45 degrees. You can find the half of that angle, so 22.5, okay? So use half angle formula to find the exact value of the one I just said, cosine of 15 degrees. So we're going to use the formula plus or minus, and I'll talk about what that means in a second, 1 plus cosine of alpha over 2, or cosine of A, you can just say. So plus or minus square root 1 plus cosine of A over 2. All right, so the plus or minus, you need to actually figure out for yourself whether or not it's going to be positive or negative. So first thing, let's just figure out, is that positive or negative? So 15 degrees, cosine is my x value. That should be positive, okay? So plus or minus, you have to actually think for yourself, will it be positive or negative? So I'm just going to go ahead and circle, that should be positive, okay? So next, the A, remember, stands for what are you dividing by 2? So A divided by 2, okay? So cosine of A divided by 2, okay? So what are you dividing by 2? Well, 30 divided by 2 equals 15, okay? Because it has to be something that you can actually take the cosine of. So it's going to be 1 plus cosine of 30 divided by 2, and we're talking about degrees here. Okay, so I need to find the cosine of 30 degrees. So the cosine of 30 degrees is, my coordinate right here is square root of 3 over 2, comma 1/2. Okay, so the cosine value is square root of 3 over 2. Obviously it couldn't be 1/2 because that'd be too easy. So 1 plus square root of 3 over 2 divided by 2. Alright, so we're going to simplify this just a little bit. Some of these get pretty messy to simplify, so remember this will turn into 2 over 2 plus square root of 3 over 2 because we're just getting a common denominator. Okay, 2 over 2 is the same as 1. So this turns into 2 plus square root of 3 over 2, and then divided by 2. And so then our final answer becomes, if I'm dividing by 2 and then I'm dividing by 2 again, that just turns into divided by 4. So it's still not going to look very pretty, but your final answer is just going to be square root of 2 plus square root of 3 divided by 4. If you wanted to, you could take out that square root of 4 on the bottom and just make it something like this. Square root of 2 plus square root of 3 over 2. That would be the same thing because we know that the square root of 4 is 2. Okay, and again, we know that's positive because 15, the cosine of 15 degrees is positive. Okay, still looks pretty ugly, but that's how you leave your final answer. All right, sine of negative 15 degrees. All right, so that's going to be negative 30 divided by 2. Okay, this also might help you to think about it that that's basically 330 divided by 2. Negative 30 is the same as 330 degrees. All right, so now this one, 330 degrees, okay, is over here. Now this one, the sine, I'm going up and down, so the sine value is going to be negative. Okay, so let's write my ordered pair. So my ordered pair here is square root of 3 over 2, comma negative 1/2. All right, now my formula is, let's scroll up, my formula is 1 minus cosine of A over 2. Okay, so negative square root of 1 minus cosine of A over 2. So notice you're using cosine no matter what. So negative square root of 1 minus square root of 3 over 2 over 2. So we're going to save ourselves a little bit of the simplifying because we did a lot of the simplifying in part A. So it's going to become negative square root of 2 minus square root of 3 over 4. Because again, it's the same thing, it's just subtracting on the inside and it's negative on the outside. But a lot of the math stuff is going to be similar. Okay? All right, and then this example down here. So it says cosine of A is negative 3/5, and the angle is between pi and 3 pi over 2. So negative 3/5, so that means this is going to be negative 4 because it's a 3, 4, 5 triangle. Okay. So the very first thing it asked me to find is the exact value of sine of alpha over 2. All right. So what I'm going to do first is write out my formula. So sine of A over 2, if you go back up to your formula, it's going to be plus or minus square root of 1 minus cosine of A over 2. So square root of 1 minus cosine of A over 2. And we don't know if that's positive or negative. So here's the thing. If I take something in the third quadrant, though, and I divide it by 2, let's think about it in degrees. So if I were to take 200 degrees and divide it by 2, it would give me 100 degrees, which is in my second quadrant. So if I were to take, let's see, 250 degrees and divide it by 2, it would give me, what did I say? I think I said 250 degrees. And divided by 2, it's 125 degrees, okay? But it's going to give me something in the second quadrant. Okay? So therefore, sine, so it's a negative and positive. So sine will be positive and cosine will be negative. So sine, if we're talking about here, that's going to be positive. All right. So now let's just simplify and plug in. So 1 minus cosine of A. We know cosine of A is a negative 3/5 divided by 2. So 1 minus negative 3/5. Well, I'm going to write that out as 5/5 plus 3/5 over 2. All right, well, 5/5 plus 3/5 is just 8/5. So 8/5 divided by 2. And we're still taking the square root of that. So 8/5 divided by 2 is 8/10. Okay, and then simplify one more time and I get the square root of 4/5. Okay, so again, you're just using your formula to plug it in. All right, next one, we have cosine of alpha over 2. All right, we go back up to our formula, 1 plus cosine of A over 2. So square root of 1 plus cosine of A over 2. Now, if we're in our second quadrant here, because we're dividing it by 2, cosine is going to be negative. Okay, so 1 plus negative 3/5 over 2, and that's negative. All right, so I have 5/5 minus 3/5 over 2. So that gives me 2/5 over 2. And I'm going to keep that negative sign on the outside so I don't forget it. So negative 2 over 10. And that gives me negative square root of 1/5. And that is the cosine of A over 2. All right, last one is tangent. So tangent is the one that's a little bit different, a little bit more intense there. So 1 minus cosine of A over 1 plus cosine of A. All right, now tangent, when I'm in my second quadrant, if I have sine divided by cosine, that's going to be negative, a positive divided by a negative. Okay, so I have 1 minus negative 3/5 over 1 plus negative 3/5. All right, so we've actually done some of these calculations already. 1 minus negative 3/5 was the one we did in part A. So 1 minus negative 3/5 we found out was 8/5. 1 plus negative 3/5, that was the numerator in part B. We found out that was 2/5. All right, so I'm going to do some keep, change, flip right here. So 8/5 divided by 2/5. So I keep 8/5. I change division to multiplication. Okay, and so I can cross out my 5's. So I get negative square root of 8 over 2. Well, 8 over 2 is just 4. Negative square root of 4 is negative 2. So that's the answer for tangent of A over 2. All right, and that concludes your half angle formulas. Next, we'll go on to trigonometric equations on your next video.